The Treasure Coast Lexus Studios, your home for Rudy Howard's African American scene on WPSL. Treasure Coast Lexus, US 1, south of Midway Road.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but you're encouraged to like and share them on Facebook because it's time now for the African American Scene, a program produced each and every Wednesday evening live at 6:05 from Howard Insurance in Port St. Lucie. And now introducing the host of the show who will be taking calls in a little bit. Here's Rudy Howard.
Getting here tonight, I was on 95 on my way here, and my brand new car started overheating.
Oh my.
And so I said, oh, geez, my car is not even 60 days old yet. So that was quite a shocker to me. It was doing some weird things, but I just thought it was part of the break-in. So I had to go off 95, go back to the car dealer. I called and said, well, I don't know if I'm going to make it tonight, but they gave me a loaner car. So here I am. I did make it. So I would just tell you that we're going to have a little discussion tonight. And first, let me say that one of my clients, and I consider him a friend, and he calls me a friend as well, is that he heard me last week, and he said, well, I'm not sure I agree with you about the bias thing, because he said I was going into the bank recently, and he's a white guy, and he said I was looking kind of bummy, and the lady grabbed her purse and seemed to clutch it in fear because of the way I look. Well, okay, and that was part of the point that one of the callers made last week. But let me say this to you. Tonight we're going to talk about this police situation. And I'm going to try to give you some insight from my perspective. And I'm going to ask you to give me your input. And I'm sincere. I really would like your input about this topic, because this is a topic that is near and dear to a lot of black people. And let me tell you why this is such an important issue. You know, for years and years, we told you that we were getting disparate treatment by police officers. And some of you determined that we were playing the race card. And so oftentimes over the years, people began to not complain or just accept it as a fait accompli that nothing could ever happen. And along comes video cameras, especially video phones. And now you see it. You see it coming across your Facebook page or your email, on the evening news. And now there's a new strategy adopted, that it's not racial. So now we've gone from it didn't happen to it's not racial at all. Can you just as I'm talking to you, I'm going to ask you to do something that's pretty difficult. Try to be me for a second. Try to be a black person for a second and just imagine the frustration that you must feel if we've been telling you this for years and years and years. Now the video cameras capture it, and now you tell us it's not racial. Folks, that is frustration personified. And I'm going to say this. I'm very proud of the people in Minnesota, because there are some communities in this country, if that happened, they would have burnt down the neighborhood. Now, I was afraid, and you heard me say last week when I closed the show that I prayed that there would be a proper verdict. Well, I don't care if you're white, black, or purple. That was absolutely ridiculous. You can't justify that. There is no way that you can justify the shooting of Philando Castile. Just can't. And here's the other thing. He was clean. He had no record. So what did they do? They took some toxicology report and said that he had some THC in his system at the time he was shot. Now, somebody please tell me what the hell that has to do with anything. It is part of a repeated pattern that when and if somebody is shot and is unarmed, the first play in the playbook is to go out and try to find information that discredits or belittles that person.
A real good reason to kill him.
Yes.
Right?
What it does is it's an attempt to manufacture a reason that makes his killing justified. You're right. And it's wrong. The man in Utah that got killed by that woman, that was wrong. I've seen that video over and over and over again. That man was walking slowly back to his car with his hands up, and he got shot. Now, here's the important thing, and this is what I want you to get, okay? You heard the guy in the helicopter say, "That looks like a bad dude." Did everybody hear the helicopter guy say it looks like a bad dude?
Did we hear the assumption of the helicopter pilot?
Right. So now, what could the helicopter guy see that makes that guy a bad dude?
Good shape, muscles, height, health.
What did he see that made that guy a bad dude? Hell, he couldn't have seen very much from that high up. The only thing he could have seen is what color he was.
Okay.
And what I want you guys to understand is, and I've had to try to correct some of my friends on this, but I got some friends that just get it. They get it very clearly without any question. Now, first of all, I want to get this straight, and I'm going to bring this where you can see it. I want it clear in your mind. This is not about cop bashing. I am not bashing police officers. I have friends on the Port St. Lucie Police Department. I think very highly of the chief of the Port St. Lucie Police Department. He, in fact, investigated many years ago an incident in my house where I had people throw baseballs through my window with KKK on it, and then wrote a nasty racist statement in front of my mother's house, who lived 2 doors down. So I've known the chief for a long time, and I think he's a good, honest, decent man. But we have Steve on line 1. Yes, Steve.
Hey, Rudy. First thing I want to ask you, were you talking to your car when you were up there on 95?
Oh, well, hey, listen, Steve.
You must have been talking to it because you got it overheated, didn't you?
Yeah, probably, yes.
He was rehearsing for tonight's show.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. I think you better be thinking about that car. It might have a different point of view than you do.
Well, that's very possible.
told Cliff, I probably ought to call in and just get insulted again. But let's think of some things that might be applicable to this situation you're talking about.
Okay.
First of all, and I know you're reasonable and you're always looking at the facts and everything's supposed to be factual. Could you tell me how many black men in this first half of the year have been shot that were unarmed by police?
I did have that number, but I don't remember it off the top of my head, tell you the truth.
Right now it's 8. That's 8 in the United States.
8 too many.
8. That is 8. 8 is too many.
Okay.
Can you tell me how many police officers right now in the line of duty have been shot?
I want to say like 17 or so, something like that.
It's like at 62 right now.
Okay.
So what I really have a problem a lot of times with this is, especially talking to liberals and progressives, is prioritizing priorities and making. You remember the show Welcome Back, Carter?
Sure.
And there was a guy, Horshack.
Yeah.
And this got it. He would really go off like that, just about anything. Well, in logical conversations, and you can't play the game to over emotionalize a lot of things. And last time I called, you did the same thing to me. You said, let me tell you, let me educate you, let me show you. And one of the rules in logic is you don't use your experiences to accentuate in a way that you overpower the other person. Because if you do that, you're saying your opinion is more valid than their opinion. Mm-hmm. And also, in that case, the other case would be that their opinion is equal to yours. And then if that's the case, then only opinions are what matter. So there has to be, even in this case, the question is, I've never smoked marijuana in my life. I've never done it, had no desire to. Now, maybe you have. Do you do stupid things? Do you do stupid things on marijuana?
Well, first of all,
wait a minute.
Okay,
Answer my question.
Oh no.
No.
Yes,
no.
He has to be on it first.
No, because you're doing
Assuming.
exactly what they do out of the playbook.
No.
What? Yes, you are. Hold on. Let me get this. We're gonna get this on track. I want to know what smoking marijuana has to do with Philando Castile. Tell me.
Okay, I will tell you.
Okay.
I have been around people that smoke marijuana, and
Okay.
I've seen them doing stupid things, really stupid things, silly things, things that don't make sense. And in the case where the police officer came up, he warned them 3 times, don't reach for the gun, even though the guy told him, hey, I have a gun. Well, see, on marijuana, your perception is muddled. And also, you want to be silly, from what I've seen. So the officer comes up, and if you want to volunteer and ride with a police officer and you be the one that goes up to the car since you carry a gun, you go on ahead and you do that. Volunteer and see how that feels in those situations. I don't know if you've ever been in those type of situations, which you might have to.
Did you hear him say to the police officer on each time that the police officer said, don't go for the gun, he said, I am not going for the gun. He asked him for his license and registration.
Okay, that may be the case, but he was telling, don't reach.
Well, how was he going to get his license and registration?
He should have put his hands on the steering wheel and kept them there. And it's a sad.
Well, wait, though. But he asked him. He asked him to get his license and registration.
Rudy, I just told you that 8 black people, unarmed in this past year, have been killed. You're using 8 people as your premise that it was a terrible thing. But in your logic, because you don't prioritize, 62 officers have been killed.
Bad cops get good cops killed.
Huh?
Bad cops get good cops killed.
Bad cops get good, but they're and
So
wait a minute. I've heard you say 98% of all cops are good. So don't give me your statistic disadvantage. Talk about the evidence that's on the table. 8 to 62.
Well, that is a false equivalence.
No, it's perception and priority.
No, it's a false equivalence because you don't know under the circumstances for which those cops got shot. You don't know. Can you tell me that the 8 people I'm talking about were unarmed black people? Now, can you tell me where the 62 cops that were shot, they were what the circumstances around their shooting was? If you can't, it's a false equivalence.
Okay, no, it's not because no, it's not because I can make again the same assumptions that you are making, and going from the standpoint that you don't know. Well, I assume that all those cops were racist, or I assume all those cops were on marijuana, or I assume. See, again, in logic, you deal with the statistics and the events, and you prioritize. And see, from the standpoint of racism, in this instance, you don't have a case by statistics. You don't. But they're trying to make it a racial issue. If the guy would have shot a white guy...
It is crap. That's crap.
Don't insult me again. And
you're going to get insulted. When you come with crap, I'm going to insult you. If you're comparing the 62 cops to the 8 unarmed black men, that's crap.
Rudy.
There is no equivalency whatsoever to comparing the 62 cops to the 8 unarmed black people. None.
Okay, then what are you going to compare them to?
Well, what I'm going to say to you is, here's the whole point that I've been trying to make to you, and that I want my audience to listen to and understand. You have to understand, for years and years, black people have been telling you this has happened to them. And then for years, we've been told, no, you're making it up. Okay, so there came a point when pretty much most folks resigned themselves to the fact that there was nothing they could do about it. And then comes along video cameras. Now video cameras are showing that there's desperate treatment when it comes to dealing with black people. Now, and then I'm going to tell you, wait. Now let me give you this, because you're going to probably be surprised at what I'm going to say. I'm not going to even say that every one of those incidents are racially motivated. What I am going to say, though, is that there is an implicit bias associated with black people that cause some people to have a negative reaction to those folks. That's real. That's real. That's been scientifically proven to be real.
But I'll use your same word. No, I won't, because I won't lower that. It's unethical to go to an argument and assume, what you're assuming now, that police officers, which are Hispanic, which are black, which are women, which are old men, young men, whatever, you're making an assumption that a group of people, even diverse as they are, that they're, just because they're police, have come up with this prejudice.
It's not because they're police either.
Okay, well then you're going to have to say that it's only white white police.
No.
Then you're going to have to say it's only Hispanic police.
No.
I'm just saying this.
I'm not going to say that. If you're asking me, I'm not going to say that.
Okay, statistically, and there is a comparison. Police officers are being shot at a greater rate than those black men without guns. That's a fact. And you can't argue that fact. You can say, well, I don't want to compare it, but I wrote a paper and you're just agreeing with my paper. Some facts are worth more than other facts.
Did a little bit of math. 62 divided by 8 is almost 8.
That's right.
Interesting.
Well, divided by 5 or 6 or whatever you want to do. But what I'm saying is, statistically, you're talking about
those 62 police officers had firearms, nightsticks, and tasers and guns.
And somehow they got shot.
Well, yes. That's why I said it's a false equivalency. You those 62 officers, and I'm not diminishing the fact that those officers was killed. Not for 1 second. And I made the opening statement that this is not about bashing police. What I am going to tell you,
because your point is you want to make a point and keep fueling a point that has statistically been less and less over the years.
Well, my friend, I'm going to tell you it's not true. I can read you a paper right here that a science wrote. It is called, it is exactly called, and because I had such a tough time getting here, it's called The Neuroscience Behind Why White Cops Kill Black Men. This is written by a white guy. And
Rudy,
it's
Rudy,
listen.
Rudy.
You have to. This was a neuroscience examination of the problem, and he provided information for why it happens. And I happen to think it is a very fair and balanced assessment for why it happens.
Of course you do. It agrees with your opinion.
No.
And
Go ahead.
can make the biggest mistakes and have the biggest fallout because they are considered to be educated people. We're living in, it's global warming. 10 years ago, it was global freezing. Are you still there?
I'm still there. You don't believe in science. I mean, you know what?
Oh, I do believe in science.
We've already established that.
No, we don't, and don't assume that at all, because science is by definition is a study to know. That's by definition. Science is not the imagination to know, and our science has become what is called theoretical science.
What I'm going to say to you is this, very simply, and it was the article that I didn't have time to fully prepare.
Okay.
This neuroscience examination, he says why it happens, and you know what? I'm going to read you a excerpt from this report because I think it says everything.
Okay.
Although these studies reveal subconscious racist behaviors that may be beyond one's immediate control, they also offer solutions to the problem of white officers' tendency to overreact in situations involving black suspects. First of all of us, including police officers and other figures of authority, must realize that these biases are real and prevalent. If we are aware of our innate predispositions, then we can make conscious effort to regulate our behavior. For instance, if a police officer is in a situation where his life is not being immediately threatened, he should go through the effort of assessing the situation logically before acting to ensure that he is not overreacting or using excessive force. Additionally, perhaps psychological and behavioral measures such as surveys and visual computer tasks that test the implicit racial bias, should be implemented as screening measures for police. If an officer does in fact exhibit these biases, he could be subject to more in-depth training that can help mitigate these effects.
So you're saying and understanding, and you're trying to support that it's what was the word? Predetermined.
Predisposition.
Behavior. What?
Predisposition behavior.
Predisposition.
Yes.
Okay, let's just stick on that word. Predisposition because of what? That's a big word and it means a lot. What predisposition about what and how and why?
What I said to you, I was reading to you a report.
Okay, but still, Rudy, that's a big word in this thing, and it's almost the center focus of the whole article you just read. The word again.
Predispositions.
Disposition. Predisposition.
Okay.
What
Well,
does that mean?
let me. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to explain to you why. And I can show it to you in a easy format. Have you ever seen the white doll, black doll test?
The what?
The white doll, black doll test.
Yes, I know. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember something about the study. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just saw it again recently. They did an updated study, and in that study, we're looking at kids that are less than 10 years old, given the choice of a white doll and a black doll. They picked the black doll as bad and the white doll as good. Okay. Now let me explain to you what that means. Okay? I want you to get what that means. A kid less than 10 years old has already in their mind come to the conclusion that somebody that's dark is bad and somebody that is white is good. And not only do the white kids come to that conclusion, the black kids come to the same conclusion.
Rudy, that's an invalid study, and I'll tell you why. If you give anybody two choices, they've proven this with prisoners. Just anybody. If you have a lineup and two guys that are put in front, people will pick one or the other as being the bad guy when they don't even know. And it doesn't have anything to do with color. The next thing was, I would say, if you want to make that a true test, then do the same thing with other colors to see if, let's say, orange and blue, or yellow and blue, or green and blue.
You know what, Steve?
You're
going to try and defend it. It is. I started this evening with saying that one of the new conservative angles is to deny racism at all costs, and you know why you have to deny it, and I'm going to tell you why you have to deny it, Steve. You have to deny it because if you accept it as a Christian man, it would require you to do something about it. So as long as you deny that it exists and that it is not a problem in this country as black people see it, that gives you the freedom not to have to deal with it.
Rudy, you are 100% wrong. What your assumption is wrong. First of all, I call you because I care about you. Don't give me this crap about. And at the end of every time, I told you, hey, I love you, man, because you're a Christian. I love you, and then there's a necessity for a conversation between us. But don't go down that racial road. I'm tired of that.
Well,
I want equality for all in a way that is the same as Martin Luther King, the character of a man. And guess what? Character is where we have to be at. And you agree with that with me. But sometimes you want to cross this line. You want to make it so we have in the past. That's not true because things are changing, and we're not living in the past. And I gave you a statistical advantage right then. And I could go with that. Well, what's the statistical advantage between the Ku Klux Klan killing black people and black men killing black people? I could go statistically. You can go down and you can say, well, okay, so black men kill more black men with guns, so let's take guns away. See, statistics can prove a lot of things, even relevant. We have to get away from this racial stuff and say we're all equal. We should be judged by the same law, by the same circumstances.
So you are of the opinion, and then I got to take a break. So you're of the opinion that we have reached a point in our society where racism does not exist.
Racism will never go away, even among races.
No, but wait. I want you to answer the question, though. Are you telling me that we've reached a point in our society where racism does not exist?
I will not say that it ever will reach that point because we won't.
Oh. So if you then think there are issues of race that still exist in our society today in 2017,
okay,
how can we address them? If you think that we should not address them, then how do we fix them?
I'll give you an example, and it's very clear cut. This question is very important. Where would you be today if racism didn't exist?
Where would I be?
Yeah.
I would probably be senior vice president in a insurance company.
So now we establish you're a victim, right?
Well, I'm just saying. You asked me, and I'm saying what I.
And that's if I ask, okay, what is stopping you right now from being that?
Well, at this point,
because there's black people in every profession.
Listen carefully
everywhere.
to his answer now, Steve.
Okay, well, at this point, I'm just too old. But
aren't you already a senior advisor or something in an insurance company? Don't you own one?
Yes, I own one.
Oh,
yes.
That's a
he's
fact.
taking advantage of the system, and he is successful, and he's well liked.
No, he was educated, and he got a good job, and he's a hard worker.
Absolutely, and that's what it is, and that should be everybody, right? Right.
Okay.
So the next question would be, then, what was your grade point average in high school? Straight A.
Well, I don't want to talk about that, but
you don't want to brag.
Yeah. Well, see, down the line somewhere, there's steps that have to be taken, and you've taken them, and you're successful, and you should be empowering other people to do the same.
Okay, but here's the whole thing, and you're saying that I have the formula that is necessary to defeat racism. Is that what you're saying?
You have the formula to be successful, and I told you will never defeat racism.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean. I mean, most people that are racist don't have all day and all night to read about racism, talk about racism, always be racist. But I tell you, there's a bunch of liberals that talk about racism 24 hours a day.
Well, here's the whole point. Okay, there's only one way to fix racism. Only one. And it may be with us longer than I'm certainly going to be here when I'm gone. But there is only one way to fix it. It is when we reach out and form relationships with people that are different than ourselves so that we can understand what their perspective is, because each one of us has a set of glasses that we view the society with. And we look through those lenses, and it's what we see through those lenses, which is also coupled with our life's experiences. And that is how we view society. And we all do it. And that's why even though I am talking about implicit bias by cops, they're all not racist because they viewed a society through that vision that has been formed by them as little kids. Now, and I'm going to give you one example, and this will help you. If you take a cop from Long Island, New York, okay, and he's been raised in Garden City, and you put him in the Bronx, New York, to perform police duties, that is a bad fit. And you know why that's a bad fit? Because he grew up in Garden City in the suburbs with fairly affluent people, and now you're going to put him in a neighborhood where there's people totally different than what he's used to. So his lens, as he looks at those people and he walks those neighborhoods, is already filled full of different perspectives than those people in the area. And he is not going to be able to help himself or herself in trying to provide proper policing unless there's a conscious effort made to try to understand those people that they're now policing. And I have good white friends who make that effort, who have made that effort to understand. And their vision that they see is different. They see a different vision. So when they look through their lens, they see something different than the average person sees because they worked on it. They tried to understand. They didn't try to defend. They did not try to defend injustices. They tried to understand why injustice happens.
Let me make my point. First of all, we're not going to change until we believe in God in a way that we treat people the way God wants us to. That's your example. Bottom line is that. The second bottom line is science says we evolved from animals, and we're nothing more than evolved animals. In that case, God is out the window. The third point is this, and this is my final one, and I'll let you go. What you did was use prejudice, your prejudice, to define and explain and categorize a human being that you never met, never worked with, and you made the assumption of that person's character. That's exactly what you stood on your soapbox and said was wrong for people to do about black people. That's what you did. And you said it about a man from Bronx, wherever. That's pre-genetic, whatever if you go down those lines, you're going down a line that science says we're animals. We're just animals. We're going to kill. We're going to lie. We're going to steal. It's yours and my responsibility to bring people to the love of Christ so that they change their hearts and that they want to develop and love individuals and see them as special individuals, God-given creatures that have the ability to serve God and their human beings, the people of this planet, in a way that's consistent with God. Once we go outside the boundaries of God, there's nothing, Rudy. It's all opinion. And your opinion is no better than the racist or the Nazi or whoever you want. And that's my point. We're down the wrong road if you're going to go to opinions.
Okay, I got to take a break.
Love you, man. Take care.
Love you, too. All right, we're going to take a break. That number again is 340-1590. That's 340-1590.
You're listening to the African American scene where logic and faith often clash. And we think it's about black and white. We'll be right back.
Serving Serving the entire Treasure Coast, Howard Insurance and Associates in Port St. Lucie offers a wide variety of insurance products, along with the very best customer service. Whether you're shopping for the best homeowners coverage at the most affordable value, contact Rudy Howard's team at Howard Insurance and Associates. If you need coverage for your vehicle, call Howard Insurance and Associates, 343-9878. That's 343-9878. Maybe you're planning to add a boat, motorcycle, or RV. Call Howard Insurance and Associates for your free quote at 343-9878 and get the coverage you need at a cost that will fit your budget. For home or business, auto, or recreational vehicle, choose Howard Insurance and Associates, 600 Southwest Darwin Boulevard, Suite 206, Port St. Lucie. And for your free rate quote, call them at 343-9878, 343-9878. Startup Talk every Thursday night on WPSL and WPSL.com worldwide. Friday nights on WQCS Classic 89 at 8 p.m. And Mondays on WSTU 1450 Stewart at 10 a.m. Watch worldwide on demand at WPSL TV on YouTube.
Hi, I'm Tom Kindred, your host of IRSC's Startup Talk.
Underwritten by Harbor Community Bank, Dean Mead, Mitten, and Zwimmer. Attorneys celebrating 30 years and Express Printing of Port St. Lucie.
The St. Lucie Mets host the Charlotte Stone Crabs Friday at 6:30. The New York Mets are in San Francisco for a 10:15 Friday tilt with a 7:10 outing Saturday and 4 p.m. Sunday by the Bay on WPSL. The Marlins host Washington Monday and Tuesday with the world champion Cubs in Miami Thursday and Sunday on WSTU. Mets Marlins baseball is brought to you by Treasure Coast Lexus, Treasure Coast Toyota of Stewart, Dave's Diner open 24 hours a day in Fort Pierce, the Quit Doc Foundation of Martin County, Nice Air, and Bar Fusion of Port St. Lucie on both WPSL and WSTU.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
You're listening to the African American Scene on WPSL, heard every Wednesday evening, and it's a live show unless you're listening to one of the archives or watching one of the archives on YouTube. You can go back and watch any of these previous shows that we've done on YouTube. Just look for WPSL TV on YouTube. And if you can't remember that, just remember WPSLTV.com. It'll take you to our YouTube presence. And now, back to the African American Scene with Rudy Howard.
Yes, and I'm sorry if somebody wanted to call in because we ran on and on for a little while here. This is going to be a two-part show because I have the report from 2010, the findings and recommendations for Florida criminal justice reform. And I want to get into that with you, and there's no way we're going to be able to get into it within this time tonight. But I hope you enjoyed the dialogue because although Steve and I joust, I do believe in his heart. He's a good, decent man, but again, I think it's so important for us to understand that our lenses are different. And that's part of what causes us to see things in a different manner. So he looks at the happening of Philando Castile, and I look at what happened with Philando Castile, and he sees one thing, and I see another thing.
I'm going to reveal an awesome truth. It's okay, but it's the truth. That black people and white people are different.
Yes.
And it's okay to be different.
Sure it is.
But I don't want to step on Rudy's free speech and rights just because he's not exactly like me. I'm more apt to listen to him because of that.
And here's where we come together. When you I've had callers call me and send me emails and thank me for giving them a different perspective, because you know what? That's all I want to do every Wednesday night is I want to give you a thought process
that other people besides you think.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So what I'm trying to do is get inside that lens you have and put some information in your lens so that when you're looking through that lens, you can now say, you know what? Just maybe I ought to look at that just a little bit different. And that's, because I don't want you to agree with me. If you do, that's fine, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to give you some thought ammunition so that you say, okay. So, and if you understood what I was saying earlier about the cops, I have good friends that are cops, great people. I got good friends that are retired cops. But what I'm trying to say to you is that as a cop is doing their job, they're still looking through that lens that has been created by their life's experiences.
Yeah.
Maybe the guy got beat up by a black guy when he was in high school, okay? A black guy kicked the crap out of him when he was in high school. Now he's a cop. Maybe there's a spillover, maybe there's not.
Maybe he grew up thinking that he's going to grow up and make a difference and change the world.
Yes,
right.
And there's some cops. You know, and here's, I saw a movie, I guess about a week ago, and I hadn't seen it for a long time because I even forgot what the content was about. And it was called The Glass Shield. And in this movie, this African American gets hired into the police force in the South for the first time. And he's gung-ho and he's going to try to make a difference. And at the same time, a white gay female also gets hired. And they were kind of forced into the system by the government, who was trying to create some diversity on this all-white police force. So in his first run, he's with one of the officers, and the officer gets this guy for running a stop sign. And he's new, and he agrees to it, but it was a lie. It wasn't true. As he gets into the force a little further, he realizes there was some things going on in there that weren't right. So him and this lady, they began fighting against those things that were wrong. And the lady gets beat up. He gets into a fight with one of the officers. And then the officer, and he exposes the corruption within this police department. And there was a big investigation by the federal government. And the federal government came in and seized all the records. And people were going to go down. But here's what happened. That officer he was with when he first started the force flipped on him and told that he falsified a report. And it was true, he had. But being new to the force and wanting to be accepted and be one of the fellas, and then it came back and bit him in the butt. I wonder how many cops out there find themselves in a very similar predicament. I could see that happening. When I saw the movie, I was like, man, I can see how easily that could happen to a guy.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
In any job.
Yeah, he's new. He wants to be accepted. So he goes along with this one thing that's not right, and later it comes back and it bites him. Yeah. But listen, here's like I said, this Philando Castile thing, I know you may not feel it. It is deeply disturbing and very hurtful to most black folks. Because what, in essence, is saying is, and you may not see it this way, that our lives are meaningless. Because when you see the visual evidence and then you come out with a not guilty verdict, how's that possible? Now, I'm going to say this. There's one remedy that has been taken in New York, because we're coming to the close of the show, which I strongly agree with. And because it's New York, maybe everybody else can't afford to do this. New York has hired a independent attorney and judge for these cases. No longer can those cases be handled in the local jurisdiction, Cliff.
All right.
So incomes, there's no longer any of that.
Get a biased jury.
Right. There's no more tie between the police officer and the judge, or the police officer and the prosecution.
These guys are all friends working in the same courtrooms every day.
Every day they're there, okay?
Let's do that.
Yeah, and of course, the jurisdiction has to deal with the police union. So now you have, New York has a perfect solution. We come in, if there's a police-involved shooting, we bring in an independent who comes in, investigates, judges, and tries the case. That, my friends, is a solution. And you know what? You would stop a lot of unrest and a lot of protests if all states did such a thing. Because what will happen at the end of the day, people would be much more willing to accept the verdict that comes out of that process rather than feeling cheated or gypped by the system. So give that some thought. And if you, I hope some of you really think that has some value. I think it has a lot of value to it.
You know what I think? I think what needs to be overcome are not people. Racism itself is not something that's going to dry up and go away. It needs to be overcome.
Yes.
It needs to be taken out. Stop taking out people and bashing people and just getting to the point to where being so intolerant. And instead of doing that and trying to destroy people's characters, destroy the racism. That's the enemy, not people.
Absolutely. And I think you really touched on something very important, that character destruction, because that is the playbook on all of these particular incidents where the cops are involved. First order of business is destroy the character of the victim.
Yeah, he had some pot in his system, so that's why it's okay that we killed him.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Something like that.
Well, folks, thank you so much. I hope that you learned something from me tonight. God bless and be safe. And I will see you right here next Wednesday for the African American scene. But we're going to have part 2 of criminal justice and the police.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast, home of the African American scene with Rudy Howard.